Hello everyone, Damien here from DKBrickStudios, and today we'll be doing another BioShock video today. Yes indeed, today we'll be continuing on the Lancer and more content. Today we'll be talking more about that. We barely scratched the surface from what I can tell with BioShock 1 and 2, so let's get on into this. Let's let that intro roll and we'll get started with this. Shall we? Let's! Alrighty, so let's get on into this cut content. We got some more cut content to actually be looking into here today, folks. So yeah, there's actually, we actually kind of, like I said, scratched the surface in a way with some of the cut content. And I literally actually do mean that. We don't know a lot about all the cut content that has been cut from BioShock 1 and 2. Now, if you do want me to do a video of BioShock, stuff from BioShock Infinite, let me know in the comment section below. I will do that when I do a build talk video for stuff, when I build Columbia at some point. If somebody does request that, I will happily do that. So yeah, let's get on into this. So, well actually before we get on into this, check out, in the description below, I'll have links to the articles, to the two articles for BioShock 1 and BioShock 2, so you'll be able to take a look at both of those. So yeah, let's get on into this. So yeah, characters. Originally, Bridget Tenenbaum was supposed to have her own unique character model. Not a reused character model. So yeah, Bridget Tenenbaum originally had her own unique character model called Emily. The early character model had two forms. One appeared to be a young woman in a mechanic's jumpsuit, seen in the pictures in the article, similar to the Rosebud while the other form was that of an older woman in a more distressed jumpsuit. This model was cut and replaced with a slightly touched up Lady Smith model to keep it in the shadows. Bridget Tenenbaum was actually intended to have a unique character model in BioShock, but was left without one for the sole reason of there was no room in the budget. It would have been nice to have seen her for her to have a unique character model instead of it being just a touched up version of the Lady Smith model. But hey, it is what it is. We got what we got. I've got no problems with it. At least they gave her a character model. It's not like, they just gave her nothing. They made her a disembodied voice, not like Atlas. Atlas we did see at one point, but he's a repurposed placer, I believe, as well. But yet again, that's just how it is, unfortunately. So yeah, on to another character. Captain Cal Franklin. You guys might not know who that was supposed to be, but we'll get on into this guy, shall we? Audio files, and they mention the audio file names, I'm not going to say them, hold a few unused lines spoken by Captain Cal Franklin, the pilot of Apollo Air Flight DF-0301, which was the flight that Jack crash-landed. The full sequence including Jack's unique phrase without the missing part, in the game's English dubbed version only, and stewardess imply a different opening where the plane crashed by accident instead of being hijacked. The line here is as follows, which I'll actually read to you. So let's say this. When my mom and dad put me on that plane to visit my cousins in England, they told me, "Son, you're special. You were born to do great things." You know what? They're right. Stewardess, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Your tray table. Would you kindly? Oh. Okay. Interesting. Just taking a note of that, because that's an interesting thing to have her say. But the captain says, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Cal Franklin. It seems that we have a bit of a problem. Captain, we're losing altitude really fast. It looks like oversped number 1 and 3. There's smoke coming out of the panel, and I got it. Pull up, pull up. I got it. Pull up. Yeah, and of course there will be the crash. I assume that last quote, which was "we're losing altitude really fast" to the pull up bit, would probably kind of transition to the playing sound effect of it crashing, and then, into the title card as well, and Jack obviously would probably be the only person to survive the plane crash, but yeah. It honestly is interesting. It was interesting, I will say that. But hey, honestly, I mean, this, I don't know which version I like better. Honestly, I may say this version is a little, has a bit more of that, it might be a bit better just because it has the, would you kindly bit in it. But that's all it has. But after that, I don't know. I mean, I do like the other intro too because, it does work. I do like it. It just is like, hey, my name, it does make it does feel like, it's like, I'm just talking, it's like, it makes me kind of feel like you're actually Jack. You're talking you're actually expressing that, that you're told that you're special, and we technically are all special in our own way. I mean, hey, hey, this is coming from a guy who's got autism and ADHD, alright? So, yeah. Life is, special for me, for sure. But yeah, I mean, this probably would have been interesting. But yeah, let's go into the next one. They've got 2 more here. They got Julie Langford and Sander Cohen. There's not much for Sander Cohen, but we might not really go into him because there's only like 2 sentences. Not really much to go off of. But we could go into Julie Langford. So, Julie Langford. Julie Langford was originally supposed to be a male, Holden Langford, but was cut far in the progress. Ken Levine stated that that they didn't have many female characters in the game, so they made they made the change. I mean, that does sound like a good reason to make a cut. I mean, like, okay, I feel like we should add another female character. Let's make her the scientist, okay? That works, in my opinion. That, honestly, I have no problem with that. You feel like, okay, we should add another female character or 2 into the game. But let's do it. Go ahead, do it. I have no problem with it. Go ahead. Hey, that's how I am sometimes when I'm working on my characters. It's with my story. It's like, oh, how many male characters and how many female characters do I want? I kind of have an idea how many characters I want. But then it's like, okay, how many, like, it just kind of devolves out. I kind of try to go for a bit more male-ish, but not too many, because I try to go for an even count, just because, it's nice to have it a bit even, but again, but it sometimes goes a bit over on one side, and most of the time it's kind of a bit more male. But again, that's just because I'm a male, I know what I'm writing. But hey, So yeah. There's a little bit more about with Julia Langford. The only reference to this in-game is a mistake made by the developers. The player looks at the sign in the reception area at the entrance of Langford Research Laboratories in Arcadia. The subtitled text will read, Professor Holden Langford Research Laboratories. Interesting. They forgot to cut that out. Got to fix that. Okay, that's actually interesting. Interesting. I have not played the game with ARC subtitles on, but I kind of don't want to. Kind of like doing that. I haven't really played it with that because it's like, why not? It kind of just bugs me a bit because it's like, I just like reading with, I kind of like to read the words myself if I have to. Like, actually like, playing BioShock 2 the first time, I actually got up close to my TV screen to read one of the plaques that was in the game, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's the same thing that was up there on the surface, up on the lighthouse. Okay, that's what that was. Oh, that's what that is. Okay. So, yeah, we'll skip Sander Cohen here, but let's kind of go, there's a couple people I want to go into. So, we've got a few people I want to cover here. We've got the Gatherers, the Slow Pro, which we all kind of have an idea who that became. And we'll talk about the Savants. And then after that, there's a couple other things I do want to talk about that were in BioShock. Because there are other things, believe it or not. Like I said, I'm only scratching the surface and I'm talking about things that I feel like could really be a good thing. So, the enemies, as they have this own enemy section. The Gatherers. Before the Little Sisters were chosen to be as the atom producers and gatherers in Rapture, many other designs were talked about and drawn up. The first idea was for the actual sea slugs themselves to be the gatherers. However, the idea was scrapped as the player would not feel empathy for the slug. Yeah, I probably wouldn't feel sympathy for the slug either. I probably wouldn't either. That probably would be me. Though, who knows? If we actually lived in a world where that existed, who knows? I might have had sympathy for that. Other designs included frogs, chipmunks, crabs, monkeys, and even a crippled dog. The idea of using Little Sisters was picked because the player would feel easily sorry for them and want to save them, making harvesting a much tougher choice. The icons displayed on the screen when the player is given the choice when the player is given the choice to rescue or harvest the Little Sister were originally an angel for rescue and a devil for harvest. Interesting. Very interesting. This was cut by Ken Levine as he wanted to leave the morality of the choice ambiguous. Not a bad idea, honestly. It's good to leave something morally ambiguous, Ambiguity is not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. Little Sister's eyes were at one point glowing completely red instead of yellow. Jesus Christ, that gives me ideas of demonic. I mean, they still kind of are, but I'm just gonna say that my sister's, well, technically is now ex-boyfriend at the point of recording this, and will be at the point of release. This just happened yesterday, which I was recording when I was recording the other one, part 1 of this, which if you've not seen that, that's already up. Check that out. I should have the card up in there, the card section, if that's not up there yet. Just click on the thing for the channel. You can go check that out. The Build Talks playlist is definitely up on there. Well, it's DK Build Talk video. DK Build Talk playlist. So, yeah. But, yeah. I remember when I started that game up, the second one, they kind of look demonic. It's like, yeah, well, they kind of are. Well, I mean, they're Little Sisters, dude. I mean, they have a freaking slug in them. How would you like it if you had a slug in it? I wanted to say that to him, but it was like, oh, wait. You wouldn't survive the process. You wouldn't live. You boys were not chosen. Could not handle that, unfortunately. So, yeah. I should have done that. I so should have. But hey, live and learn, live and forget. There's things that have happened in the past that you want to fix. But hey, let's continue on. The Slow Pro, which is also the ancestor, as I like to call him, the precursor to the Rumbler, which I really do like the Rumbler's design. The Rumbler is actually is a really interesting Big Daddy. I do like those Big Daddy designs. So the Slow Pro Thumb fume, some were slow fume. They're just had it out different ways. By the development team was a model of a Big Daddy cut from BioShock, standing for slow moving, projectile moving, effed up melee. That's literally what it says there. This Big Daddy was intended as a slow range type that would center itself, kneel and fire heavy projectile at enemies via a large arm-mounted cannon. However, he was cut out in late development due to limitations in the file space and storage. I mean, I'm gonna say this. He would have been freaking tough to fight, okay? I mean, again, I probably would have done how I attack a Big Daddy in BioShock. I do Electrobolt, Incinerate. If I have Insect Swarm at this point, if I'm attacking him, Insect Swarm. If I don't have Insect Swarm, I just Electrobolt, and after I do Insect Swarm, Electrobolt again. And then I attack with frag grenades, or anything from the grenade launcher, really. I just use the grenade launcher as my weapon to attack. Knocks them down pretty easily. Takes like 2-3 shots. Well, 3 to 4 shots. Get them down pretty quickly. And plus with the fire and all that, you're pretty much doing a lot of damage to them. Which is nice. And I try to occasionally have a telekinesis on is whenever I can. If it's a Rosie, I try to remember to use telekinesis so I could grab the proximity mines that they throw at me and then toss it right back at them and be like, ha! Guess that just got tossed right back at you, boyo. Yeah, I haven't done that yet. I want to do that. I failed every time I try to do it. I've been able to fire the rockets back at a missile at the RPG turrets, which is actually really cool. That was actually really fun to do. But after that, it was just like, but I haven't done that with the Big Daddies yet, unfortunately. So yeah. So continuing on with this, it was also planned to get research points for the Slow Pro, like other enemies, at some point of development. His research icon can be seen in BioShock Breaking the Mold. This Big Daddy was modified to feature and featured in BioShock 2 as the Rumbler, where the player can now get research points from him. Yes, indeed. I have not really done much with the research camera. I have done good. I did good in my media mode, which I will talk about probably in the first time I did that, which was actually very recently. Yeah, I just got the game in last December. Okay, hush, everyone in the comment section. Okay. Come at me. But yeah, I was doing a lot of researching, but after a certain point, I just stopped. You have to go out of your way to remember to research. I need to do that with BioShock 2. So I really need to do that with BioShock 2. Like, I have to do that because they're freaking brutes. Those are one of the things I hate. Those are the one things I hate to fight in those games, and the Big Sisters. So yeah, I'm gonna have to research as much as possible. But yet I'm not that good at researching, but yeah. So yeah, now on to the last enemy we'll talk about. We might come back and talk about a couple others, but they have a lot here, so yeah. So let's talk about the Savants. Savants were genetically engineered enemies / bosses in an early version of BioShock. The Savants were essentially heads in jars that would control the city and affect different aspects of each level in the game. Each level had its own savant that would have to be defeated, 2 of which were named Themis and Prometheus. Okay. The developers felt that there were too many savant characters that didn't make any sense, and the interaction / fighting a head in a jar was not fun or logical. I mean, it sounds interesting, but I mean, having to keep fighting a freaking head in a jar at the end of every level doesn't sound fun. So yeah, I wouldn't want to be doing that. What's so nice with the Big Daddies though is like, because they're like pretty much every level's boss in a way. You just fire the grenades. You like if you're fighting something, yeah, like if you like let's say you're in the middle of combat with somebody with an opponent, and a Big Daddy's like right next to it. You gotta be careful. Like you need to be very careful, or you could anger it. Like sometimes, or you can just go out of your way to find a Big Daddy. Like the Big Daddies, kind of like they get to roam around. You get to find them. It's kind of nice to just like they are just okay. Here they are at the very end. You got to do this. No, I can do this whenever I want. Thank you very much. But like at the end of every level, before I leave, I like to make sure I get some new plasmids beforehand, so I can have some new powers, so I can be epic. Have some new powers and ready to go. So yeah, now let's go on to some new things here. Let me just see how much we're doing on time here. Let's cover a bit. I might go a little more halfway here. Let's go into items. There's a couple of things here. Bioweapon. This was an item here in BioShock. Fastened from impromptu parts and resembling a pump-action bug sprayer, the bioweapon can be seen as a precursor to the chemical thrower, which I barely use. The device fires chemicals that were eventually integrated into the player's plasmid abilities. The 4 plasmids it was capable of expelling were Insect Swarm, Berserker Toxin, Disease Cloud, and Generic Repellent. What the heck were those 3? I know what Insect Swarm is, but I don't know what the other 3 were. Interestingly enough, both the bioweapon and its ammunition exists in Rapture. Slightly toned down version of the weapon can be found in the Silverwing Apiary, though it cannot be used in its original function. Cans of Berserk can be seen stacked in one of the target practice stands at Rapture's Grand Carnival. In the challenge room stage, a shocking turn of events, the bioweapon was designed by Mercerio Tingener. I probably messed that name up badly, but whatever. So, yeah, this was an interesting one. Don't really know what to say about this. Let's just go on to the next one. Gatherer Machine. What appears to be a significantly different version of the Gatherer's Garden was designed by Mauricio Tigenaria. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name. If he is on the next one, which is MedHypo, I'm going to... Aside from being flanked by the iconic sister statues, the machine was more closely resembled a Vita chamber than a plasma dispensing vending machine. Yeah, it kinda does look more like looking at the images, it looks more like a Vita chamber than a plasma vending machine. Which, speaking of that, I want to say this. I don't know if I said this in any Plans of the Month videos, but I want to make a little Gatherer's Garden vending machine, like a little vending machine where you get to you could put a coin or something in there, maybe you pull one of the plasma vials, and you can dispense actually something out of it. I want to make that. I think that would be really cool to have in, just in general. I would totally have that on my desk if I actually had that. Let me know if you guys would love to see that, because I would be down to building that. I would take a lot of, measuring and stuff of that for whatever I'm going to put in there. Maybe it'd be like something like Tic Tac or something like that. But again, I don't know yet. It might be like Jolly Ranchers. I was thinking of that when I originally came up with the idea, because I tend to link the blue raspberry as like Eve, and the cherry as Adam. So I could do something like that. I was thinking maybe like that, but that's gonna be, in order to fit a good amount, that's gonna have to be a big thing. But still, it'd be really cool. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. I'm probably still gonna build it either way, but let me know if you're interested in that. I'd be up to building that either way, with or without somebody telling me. So yeah, now we have the Med Hypo. This item was cut late development, but it only appears in audio diary Big Night Out, and yet game files, and only through console commands. However, the Health Hypo was an item in the System Shock game series, and its associated sound had to be reused for the Eve Hypo injection sound. Huh. Interesting. Okay, we got a little bit more time than I was expecting. Okay. So basically, this sounds like it was supposed to be like another version of the med kits. Okay, from what I can gather. So, let's do some plasmids, and then we will head on over to BioShock 2. Shall we? Let's. Okay, so plasmids. Let's take a look at some plasmids. Aggressor irritant. Aggressor irritant is a plasmid that existed in an early video of BioShock, narrated by Ken Levine, but was ultimately removed from the game. This plasmid is similar in function to Enrage's security bullseye, but different in when used on an enemy. It would have caused everyone in the area to attack them. Huh. So essentially, instead of like Enrage, if you were to throw that, you have to make sure he's in an area. You have to have a group of people around them, which, I mean, that's the only real reason why I keep Enrage on with me, because that's actually a kind of useful plasmid. I'm not gonna lie, it is kind of useful. But I do sometimes swap it out for Target Dummy, because Target Dummy is actually also really useful. Also, I do occasionally use Security Bullseye as well, but those also have their advantages. But I mean, this one sounded like, okay, so essentially everyone in a certain probably like a certain radius would have just attacked this one character who was tagged with it. So you could probably just. Sorry if you're hearing a ringing. I'm trying to figure out where that's coming from. It might be gone already. Yeah, I'm not hearing anymore. Okay. Ignore that. But it might have been, so you could probably be able to use it on a number of group of people, and you could just have like this giant cluster fight of, people fighting each other. In fact, you could use them all to take down a Big Daddy for you, like. Sanctuary. This plasmid was cut in early development. It was to create a bubble to protect the player, intended to be used while hacking. Initially the game did not pause during this time. Huh. interesting. Honestly, that would be really nice for BioShock. That would have been nice for BioShock 2. Because BioShock 2 doesn't have that. And also, I haven't really been commentating about what's been going on here. At this point in time, in the video, we are working on the arms. The arms are just about being started off. As you can see, we have the nice, wonderful front of the model with the nice backpack of the bouncer of the Rosie. Not the Rosie, but of the Lancer, Big Daddy, which all has been completed as well. And we also will be heading down that way with heading from there to the gun, which is going to be its own thing as well. So yeah, I believe we have the little sister in here. So yeah. Okay, so yeah. Sanctuary sounds like it could have been useful could at least be useful for BioShock 2 for hacking. But I mean, hey, it's not that bad, I will say. Telekinesis 2. Now this one, it sounds interesting. The plasmid was to have an upgraded version named Telekinesis 2, which was supposed to be an upgraded version of the original Telekinesis plasmid. That was supposed to cause more damage. The sales pitch was mind over matter has never been better, with new improved telekinesis. Pulls an object to you, then throws it with immense force. So I can yeet McSkeet it farther away. Farther? Where the hell did that come from? Yeet McSkeet it. Yeet McSkeet. I don't know where that came from. I don't know where the hell that came from. If you're laughing at that, if you laughed at that or laughing at me just my reaction to that, I'm glad. Because things like that just come out of my mouth from time to time. I like to say it's like a byproduct of the autism. I just have things just randomly come out of my mouth. And last but not least here, we will take a look at teleportation. And then we'll be heading on over to BioShock 2. So yeah. Well, actually, there's one more thing I do want to look at before we go. Well, actually, there's a few things left, but after that, we'll be heading on over to BioShock 2, actually. Teleportation. This platform was called late in development due to the potential for glitches and skipping important story events. It still appears in an in-game advertisement. And it also appears in BioShock 2 as the plasmid shows up as an Easter egg, which, honestly, that was an interesting Easter egg. Not knowing about that yet when I first saw it, but it was like, huh, interesting. That was really cool. So, let's talk about the research machine for a quick second. The research machine. This appears to be a device used to obtain research rewards. Similar to the vending machine, to other vending machines, an item is exchanged for a service. In this case, film pictures are developed to gain valuable research information. In the final game, the machine is absent and the process is streamlined. Jack need only to take a picture with the research camera to earn research rewards. Strings from the game files indicate that developing photos would require money, and the machine could even be hacked to reduce the cost. And the research machine was designed by Mersuchio Tenginari. However you pronounce that guy's name. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that dude's name. But he designed the other two things we looked at previously. Dude, this poor guy, his things have been cut. Things that he's designed have been cut out. But yeah, honestly, that is good that they cut it out. Because it would have been annoying, like, okay, I took some pictures, now I gotta take this, like, is it just one or multiple? Like, that's also a question that I have posing this, but, can you take multiple, but then send them all over to, head on over it, and then develop it? Like, here's a big question. You're gonna have, like, here's a big thing that's gonna be, like, you have to find those things, you have to open up a map and be like, where the hell am I supposed to go to this? And you have to remind yourself where you're going and all that. It's like, oh my god. That's where I need to be. And it's like, let's say you're on one end of the map and it's on the other end. It's the only one. Would not have been fully fun. So yeah, let's look at one more thing that will help lead us into BioShock 2 and dual wielding. Dual wielding, meaning that the player could use both their weapon and their plasma at the same time, was intended for BioShock, but was cut the last minute for unknown reasons. This feature was later implemented in BioShock 2. I would have loved that if it was in this game as well. Dual wielding is actually one of my favorite things one of my favorite things about BioShock 1. BioShock 2, I mean. It's a great improvement on the first game. I'll explain more about that when we do Subject Delta, which will be the next one this coming Friday. Please hit that if you would like to hear about that, my thoughts on BioShock 2 and all the other BioShock games. Hit the subscribe button. I would highly appreciate that. And so you can get to hear more about my thoughts and what my thoughts are when I went from single wield to dual wield. Yeah, honestly, oh my god, that would have been awesome. I would have loved to have done that, have that in the game. But no, unfortunately, it got cut, but it would have been dope. I would have loved it. And, yeah. So now let's get on into BioShock 2. I'm already at a point where I want to start. So, yeah. Let's get on to the Survivor. With an exception, so yeah, we're now on BioShock 2. Like I said, we're talking about the Survivor. With the exception of some of the MCCs, the concept of the non-spliced people still surviving in Rapture, whom the player may have interacted with, was cut from the final game. These remaining sane citizens would have special breathing apertures and wrapped their clothing in duct tape to keep them more watertight so as to better navigate the deteriorating city. At their safe house, and safe houses in quotes, they would have dressed more normally. When the idea was scrapped, the model was repurposed for mature as a mutated splicer that only appears in the demo at the opening cinematic. Interesting. Honestly, that would have been dope if we had those. That would have added more to the game, and that would have, of course, then that would have been one make us all wonder, where did those guys go? Where were those guys in the first game? But it's kind of glad. It actually is good that they did get rid of them because they did need to. It would have been a bit of a continuity problem, and I am a stickler for, and I am a big person about continuity. Like, trust me, continuity is very important when it comes to me. Come talk to me about timelines of things. Continuity, very important. I'll take this moment right now before we go into our next cut piece of content to say that we're now on the hands of the Lancer. I love the hand design, okay? It could be slightly improved probably as time goes on, yes. But as of right now, it is wonderfully designed. I love it. It's probably the best design I've made, so it's a great hand design. If you haven't built any of my BioShock guys, or hell, even Titanfall, that's where they originally showed up. Highly recommend building them. It is a really useful design. Very small and compact, with everything that needs to be in there, but it gets the point across that this is a hand, and it works beautifully, and I love it. I might improve it upon later down the line. I have been thinking about how to improve it, but I didn't do it this run because I didn't want to worry about that. But we'll see. I'll have to see. So yeah, on to the next one. Alpha series. Some concepts show that the Alpha series developed horrible deformities from the splicing experiments performed on them. Some of these deformities were so extreme that some facial features, such as eyes and mouths, can seem to be sticking out of the Big Daddy's helmet. I would have loved to have seen this, actually. Not that I don't mind the Alpha series design, but this would have been dope to see. I would have, oh my god, I would be like all over this, like, boy. This would have added to the horrors of how BioShock is as a game, like as a franchise, like, because I see BioShock as like a sci-fi horror franchise. Sci-fi steampunk horror, sci-fi diesel punk horror game in a way, and it just, oh my god. That would have just really added to the horror aspect of the game, where it's like, these guys are left over from the Adam. These guys have just been infused with all this Adam, and they are just like they're spliced up to no end, and it's like, oh man. I think that would have been nice if it was like the ones that actually shoot like plasmids at you, but the ones that don't shoot plasmids at you, perfectly fine. Wouldn't mind that if they didn't have that look. Had a more normal Alpha series look. So yeah, let's go into the Demo Daddy look. The Demo Daddy, also known as Egg Daddy because the images show here that he looks like an egg, is an unused Big Daddy model. He was inspired by World War II bombers and is so a military design. Big Daddy wearing heavy armor and some shields. The idea was that he would serve as a protector of Rapture, taking care of any submarines nearing the sea. Another idea for them to be a more rusted and covered in the ocean plants, representing them being left out in the sea, as Rapture went into the chaos during the Civil War. You know, I would have actually have liked to see the one version, that version where the second one, the latter, where it was like they were just covered in these like plants, and rust, because that would have been dope to see. Like, I mean, just take the original splicer design, and the original the Alpha design we have right now, and put that in and put some ocean stuff on there. Oh man, that would have looked nice. Creeper. Oh man, I'm sorry. I had to say that. That meme is probably gonna be old at some point, and somebody who's listening to this, they'd be like, "Oh god, I can't believe he said that." But still, hey, you know what? I have no problems with it. So yeah, don't get on me. But yeah, that would have been dope. So yeah, let's go over. Okay. Okay, let's go to the little brothers. So, in BioShock 2 explored the concept of little brothers. The idea had been brought up in BioShock with an audio diary, Why Just Girls, which Bridget Tenenbaum discussed about. But no satisfactory answer had been given for why the Atom gatherers were exclusively female. Ronaldo Tijan notes in the Deco Devolution art book, they were supposed to be like little sisters, but they were failed experiments. Little brothers were supposed to be aggressive, so they couldn't be used for gathering. They would have to be a little brother's therapy room in the therapy wing of Inner Persephone, but that would be repurposed as the pediatric wing for the little sisters. Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. Honestly, that would have been nice to see. A little brother's, like, therapy room. That would have been dope to see. I would have loved to see something like that. That would have added more to to BioShock's lore and all that. Alright, so let's go into some other gameplay mechanics. Let's go into some gameplay mechanics and gameplay elements. So, there's one thing that they cut called pneumo trading. The Deco Devolution art book mentioned an early idea for the game involving the player trading for supplies with isolated camps of Rapture survivors throughout the pneumo tube system. And they have a quote here, and I'll read that. Originally, this was very heavily affected by the story. We were going to have survivors in Rapture that had hidden out in these camps and needed a way to talk to one another and trade goods back and forth. We came up with the idea of using the pneumo system. It was a mail system, but very simplistic. Old pneumatic tubes deliver air devices, so it can come up. So I came up with the idea that they would build these glass boxes like fish tanks, sealed off, and inside would take junk from Rapture, old TVs, things like that, and link them together and make these cobbled together devices that would stick into pneumo tubes. The idea with this one specifically, the TV would show the ammo guy his list of ammunition and what he had in his supply cabinet. You'd click him. He'd say, "Hey, how you doing? I got ammo here. Do you want this stuff?" And you'd say, "I want the machine gun ammo." He would say, "Oh yeah, here it is." He would show you it. You would give him and give you a price, and then you would pay for it, and then would pop up the pneumo tube. In this scene, the bottom right hand corner is smashed smashed like some Spicer hit it with a crowbar because he got mad. Each screen tells its own little story within it that you come up with your own ideas about what might have happened to this particular element. That actually sounds like a very interesting idea. Honestly, like if I can't find it, like I can like how I would see it is like, oh, I can't get to what's its face Circus of Values or LMO Bandito as it's called, or I like to call El Bolito, which I really think is actually a proper name for him. It's a more better name for him, but that's just me. Again, you can just use this, and you can get a number of, you can just get some ammo, or get something from them. And they send stuff up to you. And this was a quote by Jim Ingram, 2K Marin UI artist. The developers had already created a model and several UI screens, and this is me continuing on with the stuff about this, and you see our screens for the pneumo trading system before it was cut from the final version of the game. Dubbed Buy and Fill, concept shows pneumo tubes fashioned with various equipment, writing, and parts such as microphone, antenna, and projector. The pneumo trading machine was ultimately removed because the virus idea was no longer part of the storyline. Yeah, that makes sense. I can understand I can definitely understand that. Once they got rid of the survivors, you can't really have this system, so you have to get rid of this system, unfortunately. But hey, I mean, it would have been nice to see this. This would have been really cool. I think it would have been dope to see this, but unfortunately, it had to get cut. So hey. So yeah, let's talk about, let's go on to Eden. In the Deco De-Evolution art book, many of the concept art show that Adam was used to create a drug called Eden. In the later years of Rapture, a new drug would have been taken by Delta while exploring one of Ava's wild parties in the preserved version of Dionysus Park. The drug would have caused a powerful hallucinations, making Delta see memories of his past, large marionette puppets, and even a 20-foot Cohen monster bunny. Oh. That's where the, guy, that's where that comes in. Okay. Kind of glad they got rid of that, though. I don't want to see it. I'm honestly glad they got rid of the giant 20-foot Sander Cohen bunny, because that would have been creepy. So let's go on to another one. That's still in the same vein. Submarines and personal bathyspheres. Concept shows variants of submarine designs, possibly for when the bathysphere travel was considered before the Atlantic Express became the main mode of transportation. The only traces left of the concept is a poster of Austin Streamliner, whose design mirrors a variation of the original concept art. Alrighty. Honestly, I will say this. I really like the idea of the whole, the train, the whole Rapture Metro. I'm trying to remember what it was. The Atlantic Express. That's actually a really nice design feature. That's actually that's a really good choice I feel like that's a good choice that they did that one, as opposed to just doing bathyspheres again, because it gives us another view at what Rapture had as transportation. And it kind of builds up on the story. And I actually was talking to myself about it last night when I was wrapping up my time in BioShock 2, because I was getting in the vehicle after I met Sinclair for the first time, you know. I'm going to talk about Sinclair for a good portion of that video with Delta, about when I'm building Delta, because Sinclair was one of the things that I really liked about that game, okay? Sinclair was one of those things, okay? But again, I really feel like it helped show, like, hey, look, this was another part of how people of Rapture got around. Before the bathyspheres were a thing, people of Rapture took the Atlantic Express. And now the bathyspheres are a thing. It's hard for people. You can't really. The Atlantic Express is going out of business. I really feel like it's a great idea. So there is another thing that I really want to share, where underwater combat. And I think I know what this would have had along with it, which I talked about in the last video, but if you've not seen that, I would highly recommend it, but two, I'll mention it in this after I say what's in it. Underwater combat was planned to be implemented into the game and have more open water levels than what was seen in game. It was scrapped due to time constraints. It would have been awesome to have more underwater levels, and it would have been awesome to be able to fight underwater. That would have been a dream. But I feel but I can understand why they cut it out. I mean, time constraints and all that. That's always important. And that's always a thing. Time constraints are a thing, unfortunately. But hey, I can see where they were going. Like, I can see why they have the underwater splicers, the water splicers, aqua splicers. That's what they were called. The aqua splicers. Don't sound creepy at all. But hey, you know, those things. would have been in here. If that, I feel like once that got scrapped, the whole underwater section got scrapped. The aqua splicers had to have been scrapped as well, because if you can't really have the underwater section of Rapture, underwater portions of the game, combat and all that, you have to scrap those guys because that's really where it is. So yeah, this is more of like single player stuff levels wise, but we're not gonna go too in depth in this. I remember seeing like intros, different intros maybe. Nope, wait, no, unfortunately no. Okay, we'll cover a couple things, but preludes. So in the preludes for BioShock 2, New Year's Eve riots. In the retail version of BioShock 2, the introduction of the introduction level is Adonis Luxury Resort, though it was the last to be created during the game's development. Also, it was named Prelude 2 in the game's files for a simple reason. Developers at 2K Marin already created Prelude level, which was eventually scrapped. This level would have been the famous first level of BioShock, or parts of it, Welcome to Rapture, but recreated as it looked like during 1958 World New Year's Eve and the bombing of the Kashmir restaurant. That would have been awesome to see. This introduction would have been a playable flashback in which the player controlled Subject Delta protecting Eleanor Lamb as a little sister inside the Kashmir restaurant when the bombs went off and the 1958 New Year's Eve riot erupted. And at the end of the flashback, Subject Delta would have awoken up in the ruins of the flooded Kashmir restaurant 10 years after the events of the first BioShock game. The only parts of this unused level left in BioShock 2's files are the introduction cinematic of the game, which shows a slightly different version of the level, the loading screen images, would have been displayed during its loading, featured the gallery featured in the gallery below in the article, which you can check that out in the description. I'll have that, like I said earlier in the video, linked in the description down below. The article, not the pictures. I don't know how to do that at the moment. And the radio messages. Two party-goer models would have had a bloodied and beaten up variant, which would have likely been seen during the attack on the Kashmir. Yeah, most likely, yeah. That would have been actually really interesting to see. Really interesting to see. But yeah. So yeah, there is another one. This one's called Deep Sea Explorer. Another cut idea was for a deep sea explorer to be sunk down in a bathysphere connected to the boat USS Jenny in 1957. While being sunk to the bottom, the sphere suffers some technical issues thanks to the pressure. While at the bottom, the diver exits the sphere and starts walking on the seabed, connected with an air tube to the sphere. While walking, he witnesses a light and is shocked to see the underwater city of Rapture. While watching the city, several torpedoes are launched at the USS Janney, and the diver is dragged towards the sphere when the captain of the boat starts to reel it back up. The diver loses control of himself and ends up pulling off the tube and sinking down while the bathysphere falling after him. The scene ends with a reflection of the diver's eyes being seen on a broken piece of glass. This idea might have been how the man became Subject Delta found Rapture. That would have actually been really cool. I would have actually really liked that. Oh man, that could have been really cool to see. I remember seeing the cinematic stuff for that, but oh man, that could have been dope to see. Man, that just sounds like it was going to be something cool, but unfortunately they had to scrap it. Unfortunately, but hey, uh, honestly, that would have been dope to actually see Johnny Topside, before, at least see him technically, like in the first person, before he went off into and got sucked into Rapture, which honestly I would have liked to see a lot. So let's talk about Ryan Amusements a bit, and I think I have enough time to talk about one or two more things. So I think we'll talk about Ryan Amusements and why not maybe Fontaine Futuristics. And yeah, like I said, there's still more to cover here. I have not covered everything on this article, so yeah. Ryan Amusements. The Hall of the Future wing of Ryan Amusements was meant to be more than just a showcase of plasmid concepts. Plasmid's concept show, the wing also showcased Adam's origin, showing displays, harvesting methods, and dissections of sea slugs, as well as the substance known as Adam, along with the portrait of the person who discovered the sea slug connection, shown to be a man, not Tenenbaum, in the concept art. I would have thought that was. I would have, if they kept it actually as Tenenbaum instead of a man, because Tenenbaum was the one who discovered it, not somebody else. Tenenbaum was the one. She is the one who found it. She should be recognized. And that's how I feel about that. But yeah, that would have been really interesting to see. The concept shows one final diorama in the Rapture Memorial Museum of a man in a diving suit similar to that of the Big Daddies in a heroic pose. The words "Welcome to Rapture" behind the miniature cityscape. His statue was designed to imply that that Big Daddies were originally created through the workers that built the city. This final diorama was ultimately replaced by the destroyed exhibit in the final game. Yeah, interesting. Also, it would have been cool if they actually had that at the very beginning, like once you walk into the city, like once you walk in there, you see that. You see the big like a heroic pose of a Big Daddy in that. That would have been dope to see. But hey, we got what we got. It works nonetheless. I have time for more than just for one less, for an extra. Yeah, we might have time for some more. Alrighty, so Fontaine Futuristics. Let's talk about that city, about that location for a bit. Fontaine Futuristics level would have been 90 to 100% out of the ocean, rather than inside of a building. Would have been was to have been 90 to 100% out in the ocean rather than inside a building. The player would have to try to find a way to safely float down the ocean trench behind Fontaine Futuristics to reach Persephone. There was a balloon ride device idea where the players would ride the balloon to float to the bottom. An idea in Fontaine Futuristics would have shown the players how Adam extracted from the Little Sisters without killing them in the process. Not much is known about this concept, but it was described by the game developers as being quite brutal. I mean, yeah, it could be. I could see it as being quite brutal indeed. Did that? I mean, it'd be cool if it was actually 100. If it was actually partially in water. But I mean, hey, if we got what we got again, like I say, I got no problem with what we got. But hey, it would have been dope to see it. I'll see how much what else we can get. I'm just trying to find things that I know will be interesting to talk about. And also kind of long things to talk about. So let's talk about Dionysus Park, and maybe after this, let's talk a bit about Minerva's Den. We could talk about all about Minerva's Den after this. Yeah, why don't we? So Dionysus Park. Dionysus Park was first designed as a totally preserved, uncorrupted section of Rapture, untouched by the Civil War. Development was far along before they decided it was previously flooded. Removed radio messages revealed that the park was once owned by Ava Tate. She used the space to entertain her followers with extravagant Adam, now called Eden, fueled parties. An earlier idea was for a doorway out of the art gallery space, which led into an indoor forest. This was an experiment with spatial surrealism that ultimately failed. Dionysus Park was also in one point to be flooded in game, and the entrance was to be through the atrium of Fort Frolic, which also had become completely flooded since the events of the original BioShock. Interesting. That would have, if we actually had to go through Fort Frolic to get to there, I would have had no problems with that. I would have loved to have done that. Going back to Fort Frolic, oh man. Creeper, oh man. Again. But hey, I mean, of course, if it being completely flooded, I'm sure Sander Cohen perished with it. Now I want to know what his masterpiece, the artwork that we were working on with him in BioShock 1 actually looks like after that. After 8 years in the ocean. Oh my god, that would have been really interesting to see. Also, concept art for Dionysus Park also exists for a preserved Triton cinema, which would have been showing MGM's The Wizard of Oz at the time of Delta's arrival. There was also ideas about film studios in Dionysus that never made it into the final stage. Stanley Poole would have used the cinema as a hideout and shown Delta film reels of his past life as Johnny Topside. Ooh, that would have been awesome. Honestly, the whole thing with the film reels and cinema and all that, like, I'm a film nut. I'm a cinephile, as I like to say. A sci-fi cinephile, but I'll watch any other film that really perks up my eye, like Stuber. I watched that movie. That kind of just looked like a stupid movie to watch, and it was a stupid movie, and it was hilarious nonetheless. But again, back to this. I like film. I like listening to music of film, and it would have been fun to watch that. That would have been, to play through that. That would have been fun, just seeing moments and bits of Johnny Topside. Oh my god. That would have been dope. I mean, at least we would have gotten to see his life in Rapture, not above the surface, but in Rapture. And from there, we could have extrapolated what his life was like on the surface. Oh man, that could have been awesome. Why'd they have to go cut that out? So yeah, like I said, now we're going to go into Minerva's Den, and then after that, I feel like we're going to wrap this all up. So yeah. Minerva's Den. Minerva's Den was originally going to be, this is the original pitch, was originally going to be a retelling of System Shock 2. Much like seen in the final version, the Thinker was supposed to imitate Charles Milton Porter and guide the player through the game, but unlike the finished product, Charles Milton Porter was dead the whole time and would have been revealed at the end of the game. This mirrors Shodan's role in System Shock 2, where she uses the persona of Dr. Janice Polito, I'm murdering that last name, to guide the player. Jordan Thomas and Zach Cleedon were not fans of the idea, so Steve Gaynor, I might have mispronounced that, the presenter of the pitch decided to give the Big Daddy protagonist the identity of Charles Milton Porter. The Minerva's Den still conceptually branched off of System Shock 2, with, as an example, Chardin being a direct influence of the thinker. Really interesting. So the architecture. Minerva's Den was originally planned to have much more than Greek was originally planned to have a much more than Greek appearance. The building would have been quite small compared to Rapture's skyscrapers, but would have been built high up on an inactive volcano rather than low down in the seabed, whereas it is in the final game, thus giving the same height as the other buildings in Rapture. Much of the facility would have been hidden inside of the volcano. Very interesting. I believe here I'm just going over all the steps for the little sister. So yeah, just taking care of the little sister stuff, you know? If you see my Rumble stuff, I'm doing the exact same thing. So this would be hydropower. Hydropower probably this is how they got power for the building. Concept art reveals that the facility's power was retrieved from hydroelectric power plant built in the caves beneath Minerva's Den. The pumps would have been viewable from the Thinker's chamber. In the end, there is no reference to hydroelectric power in the den, so it must be assumed that Minerva's Den is being powered by Hephaestus, much of Rapture. Pretty much all of Rapture. Nope. The Big Ben of Rapture. This, honestly, I think would have been cool to see. A large clock was originally planned to be located at the top of Minerva's Den. The clock would have been illuminated from the inside and would have been seen from all of Rapture. The gears inside, located in the center of the structure, would have been connected to the facility's computer system and would have been explorable by the player. Although the clock tower did appear in the final version of Minerva's Den, a large glass clock was incorporated at the bottom of the den's executive wing. Sucks we got that. I mean, it's cool we got at least a tower clock, but not the actual clock tower. I'm gonna do one final thing because this actually sounds very interesting, and we're gonna go from there. All right. Chemo toast. Chemo toast is a toaster using chemicals to toast bread. It was advertised to fit more bread than previous toaster models. Toaster/models. Less spilled bits and with newly safety precautions in the form of extra dials. Concept art by Joshua Veers and an advertisement for the toaster was made, but was cut from the final version of BioShock 2. Really interesting. Really interesting. So, yeah, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to head on out to the outro. I'm going to jump onto the outro, cut it here, stop here, the recording session bit. Head on over to the outro and leave you guys here with a bit of silence. I really need to get music in the background of these things. But again, hope you guys enjoyed this cut content stuff. Let me know if you want more cut content stuff. I'll do BioShock Infinite if I do Columbia at some point in the future. So yeah. And I'll do that unless I can't get somebody who I know actually likes BioShock Infinite on with me. So yeah. I'll see you all in the outro. Alrighty, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making it for you guys. I really do enjoy talking about this kind of cut content stuff. It's really fun to do. Like I said in the video, if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, let me know. I'll do it when I do Columbia. If I do, somebody requests it. But it won't be on my own free will. So, yeah. Please let me know if you'd like to see any more, what would you like to see in the future. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and turn on notifications. I'd be greatly appreciative of that. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, check out my Patreon. Link that is in the description down below. As always, also check out DKBrickStudios. Link to that is also in the description down below, along with my friend's Number Rise. Link to that is in the description down below as well, and also my socials. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, this is Damien from DK Gaming, the Brick Studios. Wrong studio. Forgot what studio I was doing it for. Signing off, remember, be the sports others, I'll see you in the next video.
Birds of a feather, well weathered together, chasing the dark from the night. Trust in your feelings and find a new hope. Take your best shot and let go.